Hi everyone, and welcome to the monthly update for March of 2021, where I tell you everything about the Glowing Stripes project, what I worked on more specifically last month, and yeah, where to go on from here. As you can see behind me, I have access to a 3D printer now, and this is also what this episode is mostly about. 3D modeling, 3D printing, and everything surrounding the case of the Glowing Stripes project. So let's directly dive into it, shall we? So beginning of the month I got this 3D printer, and first I had to build it up since I chose the DIY kit. And while I don't generally regret that idea, I definitely learned quite a bit about how this 3D printer works and how screws are amazing when it comes to connecting 3D printed parts. However, I also did something wrong, which caused me a lot of trouble later on and a lot of problems with the 3D printing quality. So the problem I had was that the printer was under extruding. So something was blocking the filament from coming out smoothly out from the hot end. And after I was already struggling with that for a while and was driving me nuts, at some point I was reaching out to someone from a local hackspace nearby who was willing to come over and help fixing the 3D printer, but also make me understand what the issue was in the first place, so that when it happened again 1 week later, at least I was able to fix it this time myself. And now I seem to have a good working 3D printer, which I'm really happy about. So once I got the 3D printer up and somewhat running, I started printing the 3D models which I designed before. Starting with the ESP32 cases. I basically made a small case for the microcontrollers to protect them and protect the wire connections. And I made some changes to it so that the wires are actually in between the microcontrollers instead of outside of the whole case, which makes it a lot more stable and resistant. So after I finished the cases for the ESP32s, I continued with experimenting a bit on making a water protected case for the LED strips outside of my window. For this I used a material called TPU, which is flexible, and so the idea was to make it kind of like a tight seal when you basically screw some screws in with the nuts together to make it as tight as possible and not leaving any gaps in between. Which I think also kind of worked. I probably would have needed to add even more screws to make it like really perfect. And it doesn't win any design award either, but hey, first attempt, and I think it's kind of nice. Speaking of experimenting, I was experimenting with a lot of different connector designs for the LED strips. Because the previous design that I used so far in my 3D prints, it wasn't really practical. It was huge, thick, and it wasn't really easy to lock and unlock the LED strips and connect them with each other because of the design that I chose. So I was thinking, like, can there not be a simpler, smaller alternative? So one of the things that I then tried was, how about making it magnetic, like using magnets to connect the LED strips with each other. And to keep the story short, that's not gonna work. They're just too weak if you want to keep it compact. Plus it just makes the design so much more unnecessarily complicated. And it also makes it more difficult to print and more difficult to build up. So yeah, that's not the design I chose in the end. And then I realized, what about jump wires? I still had them around me, and they're super cheap, they're very compact, and they click enough into each other that they create a good connection. And yet very easy to integrate into an existing 3D print, as long as you leave some gaps in between. And then the last thing that I 3D modeled and 3D printed in multiple variations is the actual case of the Glowing Stripes project. The case that basically protects the ESP32 controllers inside, but also that provides the connection to allow you to add the stabilizers on the side. Plus you can also then use it to slide the case inside a wall mount, so you can fix the LED strips on your wall, horizontally, vertically. So yeah, that's what I did. The first design I came up with, the second version of the design that I came up with was already much better than the first one. It involved screws this time to make it much easier to connect the parts and to make it very stable and reliable. However, it was also unnecessarily complicated, like too many parts, quite a lot of filament needed to print it, and also too many steps to actually, fix some simple things. So I redesigned it again and made a version 3, which this time is also a little bit smaller, but primarily it's just much simpler. It's just 2 parts, the actual main case, and then this the outside basically that you put on top of it, and just 4 screws, closed, done. And therefore it's also very easy to open it again and make changes if necessary. So part of that case I already have 3D printed, and other parts I still need to print, and I don't think I need to make any changes to it, but we'll see. So yeah, that was pretty much it for March, and now I'm just gonna continue 3D printing the parts that I haven't printed yet and make some minor small changes possibly to make everything fit perfectly together. And yeah, after that I can finally focus on the front end and finishing up the project, which I'm really looking forward to. It has been quite a bit of a journey. Yeah, and then around end of April, latest in May, I will then start planning to actually sell the project, like how to sell like the LED strips as a complete product, but also how to make the DIY kit accessible for people, both like as an open source project, of course, and with a lot of instructions, both written and video, but also to like sell the DIY kits to make it easier for people who don't have that much equipment at home and don't want to do everything themselves. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and stay happy, stay healthy. See you next month then. Bye.